Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to some of you, and peace out to the rest of you. It ain't your boy, it's your man's. The blackest hearted, blackest minded, blackest man on social media, signing black in and shining again, asking you to hit the share button because the message is more important than the messenger. This message is in regard, it's a response to a question posed to me by a commentator, former subscriber, that I think might be related. The question posed to me was, what about the sunnah of the first marriage? And the first marriage being Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam's first marriage, which was to a widow named Khadijah bint Khuwaylid. May Allah be pleased with her. And as the story goes, he was 25 and she was 40. Now, there are a few sources that say actually she was 28 at the time. In either case, she was older. She was wealthy. She was beautiful. And she was getting proposals from other men that were also wealthy. And she was turning them down. When he came to work for her, she made more money, and she realized that this was the honest employee because he was not keeping anything extra beyond what was agreed for himself, and he didn't let other people do the same thing. So when he sold the goods, he turned everything over to her that he was supposed to turn over to her. This was an honest man. This wealthy widow that was gorgeous and sought after by other men then turned, after seeing his character, despite the fact that he was an orphan. He was of a noble tribe, but he was also an orphan. And this knocked his social standing down a bit. I don't mean it knocked down his character. No, that was beyond reproach. His enemies said this. But it knocked down his social standing in the eyes of others. Altogether different. That's no fault of his. However, she, older than him, rich, gorgeous, sought after by wealthy men, chose him because of his honesty. She said that she fell in love because of his character and honesty. This is where it gets real unconventional. She said this, she didn't hide it. Guess what? She proposed to him. He did not have to propose to her. He didn't have to go and send someone to her. He didn't have to figure out how am I going to get enough money to impress her. She, gorgeous and wealthy and older than him, did exactly what women today would look down on one of their own peers for doing, and she proposed to him. And that's allowed. To this day, it is allowed in the faith for women to propose to men, even when they're older and wealthier and gorgeous and they've got other options. That's with the understanding that the man's character is top notch, that it's A1 plus. In that case, yeah, it's all right. So you can turn down, ladies, a man that's older and richer than you while you're rich and gorgeous. You can turn down such a man because you don't know about his character in favor of a man that's younger than you and has less than you, but because you know his character. How many would be willing to do this? To my potential kinfolk that asked the question, how many do you know, honestly, would be willing to do this right now if they had Nicole Murphy's looks and money? Now, I'm using her as an example because she's an older lady, but her looks are in order, and I take that back. I heard she had money and has lost it. So, who else? Who else has got the looks in order, gorgeous, and got the money in order? Quite well off. Bottom line, tell me in the comments, how many women that are gorgeous and wealthy are going to propose to a man that is not wealthy and has less than herself? This is almost unheard of. This was almost unheard of during her time. And as the story goes, one story goes that she got her dad drunk so that he would not oppose. Stop and think about that. And she became the wife with whom Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was the happiest in his life. The only one of whom Aisha was jealous, may Allah be pleased with her too, was Khadijah. They never met. But everybody that knew both of them would tell you that Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam would treat her friends very well after her passing. He would treat them not just well with general good manners, he would treat them with a little extra honor. Stop and think about that too now. Now, the marriage that sticks out in my mind. My Khadijah was a year older than me. She wasn't wealthy. But I didn't expect that. However, what I'm getting at is that, you know, many men, if they have to be married to more than one for some reason, simultaneously or at different times, they're going to have a Khadijah. Mine was not American. Mine was not a year younger than me. Mine was also a widow. I was quite happy. Other men have been through something similar. So what I'm getting at here is, you see, in his case, he was proposed to when he did not have money by her. So to my potential relative, what I want to know is, even though I said the things I said about men needing to extra scrutinize these women with extra years and extra pounds, I said this because we're not in a situation like theirs. Back then, men and women may have each had their own interests. There may have been negotiations that took place. But what we're dealing with now is a war of deception. And the Muslim women in the West are not far ahead of the non-Muslim women in many cases. They're ahead in terms of other things, but when it comes to their assessments of men, they're not really far ahead. They're also bringing materialism, concerns about what their friends are going to say. These things, same things in which they would not have any patience with a man if he brought to the table. Same flaws. So I had to say what I said because it's damn war, and I don't like it, but it is. You see, during his time, nobody was going around. You did not have the old and fat brigade going around telling young men that if they're real men, they'll go look for the old and fat woman. That did not exist back then. We have that today. And the age and the extra weight are the same two things about which these women feel the most insecurity. So how dare they tell men that in order to be real men, they will go looking for women with the exact same two things about which the women themselves feel the most insecure, knowing doggone well that women don't tolerate insecurities in men. They don't even tolerate the appearance of insecurities in men. So by me simply addressing how I was wrongly assessed based on a phenotype, many women listening think that I feel some kind of insecurity about my phenotype. I don't. Others assume that I feel an arrogance about it, like it entitles me. I don't. I simply say that a phenotype that does not affect one's character, bravery, intelligence, or anything else for that matter, was used to assess these very things by these same women that would insist that I never use their phenotypes to assess anything internal regarding them. By me simply saying that this is one of those things, those patterns that existed, just by me saying this, you see, I have to be assessed as somehow insecure. And I'm not the only man most black men have dealt with this. That's why black men spend so much time when they're trying to be ladies' men. They got to spend so much time thinking about what this woman's going to think about what if he does that, this or that. Trying to figure out some right way that does not exist to impress a woman that cannot be impressed. So, prospective kinfolk, this is a question, it's a good question to ask, because you're bringing up the example of the best role model for humanity to a man that's talking to a bunch of men at war. That's true. However, again, this is something you got to go and tell the ladies, because it is the ladies in the black community not even just in the United States for that matter, that are so busy over-assessing and hyper-scrutinizing the things that don't actually make a difference in the men, that it has gone beyond just a few men not getting some booty from attractive women, and it has gone into the realm of an actual community disintegrating from within because the women have chosen to only breed with low quality and nothing else. Turning away, forget the best dudes, turning away the men that have a decent sense of morality and responsibility. But then on top of that, coming to the same dudes that are so ugly to them and unattractive, not because they got bad game, no, but because they have a decent sense of morality and responsibility. That alone makes them unattractive. And these ladies got the nerve to go to the same dudes and say, you need to stay and fix the community. You need to stay and take care of and mentor these kids that you could have never fathered or sired because there's no way we would have fucked you when we didn't have any kids. And there's really no politer way to say this, prospective kinfolk. This is a valid point you brought up, but it's best to bring it up to the ladies, Muslim and non. Because if sisters, right now, what we're dealing with is a case in which, and ain't even the ugly ones either. No. It is the attractive ones in our community that are going and making approaches. They are proposing not even marriage, they're just proposing fornication. And they're doing it on the basis of the man not having a decent sense of responsibility or morality. Forget marriage, they're proposing something far less of a headache to these guys. What you doing this Saturday? I don't know. Well, we'll buy some Netflix and chill this Saturday. He going down the hallway or down the street high-fiving his homies. Yeah, bro, we doing Netflix and chill on Saturday. You see how big them titties are? Meanwhile, some dude that does not know what she has proposed to this man, does not know how she is, and he's sitting up here trying to actually impress her and go about it the right way. For more than just, that fornication. That's the story of the community. And so, in the future, the DNA of our community has been shaped by this. The quality of who lives there and who's coming up has been shaped by this. And the ambition or the lack thereof in black men, young black boys and young black men has been shaped by this because they're coming up and they're seeing that a decent, not even an excellent, but a decent sense of morality and responsibility, long before you get to the level of being a goody two-shoes and a snitch, just a decent sense makes you completely invisible to any woman that is moderately attractive. And instead of addressing the issue as it is, even when I talk about it right now and we describe it, there are some ladies that are listening, and what they want to do is they want to come along and say, well, Mr. Black, what about your game? Why don't you work on yourself? You just mad because X, Y, and Z. And they got goons and ma'am dingoes willing to say the same thing instead of what they need to hear, which is no, Blackheart is right, you're wrong. Your selection standards are wrong. I mean, they're up to you to decide, but they're wrong. They are to blame for the shape of the community. No, you don't have the right to sit up and say no to guys like this. You do have the right to say it, but you don't have the right to say no to guys like this when it's time to bond as people and then turn around and tell them that they owe it to you and your kids from other men to raise these kids and take care of your stank behind. This is not something you need to tell me. This is something you need to tell these ladies, because you know doggone well, you tell a woman that is attractive and wealthy that she could actually solve her problem, at least that of loneliness and lack of family. She could solve that if she was willing to propose to a man that is younger than her and has less money than her. You know doggone well, most women can't stand that. If what we men want is invalid and it makes us pigs, then what you ladies want, even if it's the majority of you that want it, even if you think it comes natural to you to want and to not want these things, then what you want, your taste, make you pigs. It either runs both ways or it runs no way. This ain't no one-way street. And that's what I'm trying to get at. If women have the right to look at the example of Khadijah bint Khuwaylid, may Allah be pleased with her, and see that she had money and was older than Muhammad and was gorgeous and had options in other men that were rich, and she passed him up and then proposed to Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and they look at this example and then got the nerve to sit back and say, I can't do that and I don't have to. I think the man, I know they did this, but I think the man should always come up to me and my wakil and my wali. See, Khadijah risked rejection. That's one of the main things. She risked rejection under conditions far different from what any of these women today would risk it. She did what women today won't do. So she got what women today won't get. She got what's not even available to women today. I can't be like Nuh alayhi salam, or Musa, or Adam, peace be to them as well. So I definitely can't be like Muhammad, peace be to him. Peace and prayers on him. It's not available as much as I would like to be that. It's not available for me to be, let alone for a woman to find in me or any other man. But she did what others won't do. Go to these ladies and tell them. And if it's okay for them to say, yeah, well, see, these men ain't Muhammad, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, fine. Well, what I would say is, yeah, okay, well, these women ain't Khadijah. These women ain't none of his wives. These women ain't Khadijah, and they are none of his wives. They're not like any of the wives of any of the prophets, except maybe the wife of Lut alayhi salam. Yeah, in that case, yeah. Or like the first wife of Ismail, the one that his father told him to divorce because she kept complaining about what they didn't have. He left a message, and that was cold-blooded. Gentlemen, y'all want to know some cold-blooded red pill stuff right there? Ibrahim alayhi salam called Abraham. As you know, he had the sons Ishmael and Isaac. Ishmael and Isaac in English, Ismail wa Ishaq in Arabic. And they were also prophets, peace be to them. He went back into the area that's now Mecca to visit his son. When he got to the house, his son wasn't home. Ismail, peace be to him, was not there, but his wife was. So the wife answered the door. This was his daughter-in-law. And she said, he's not here. And so he said, well, okay, listen, how are you all doing? And she said, oh, things are hard. We don't have much, as you see. And he said to her, when he gets back, please tell him that he is to change the threshold of this door. The threshold is weak. And she passed the message on to Ismail when he got home. And Ismail said, that man was my father. Because see, Ismail was also a prophet. So they were given understanding. So he said, that man was my father. The message is about you. I divorce you. Now, Ismail's character was so sound that the same tribe from which this woman came then married him to another lady. They didn't take offense. They were like, okay, look, his character's sound. He wouldn't do this for no reason. And this is one of the things that's important in many ancient cultures to understand. So then, when his dad came again on another visit, he wasn't home when he got to the door. This new daughter-in-law of Ibrahim, peace be to him, answered the door. And she said, well, yeah, he's out working. And so he said, well, okay, well, listen, how is everything going? And she said, yeah, well, you know, alhamdulillah, we get by. We get what we need. So what she was pretty much saying is, despite the normal trials of life, in the end, we come out fine. And I thank God for it. That was the gist of what she said to this man. And he said to her, when he returns, please tell him that he must keep the door of this threshold. That he must keep the threshold of this door. The threshold is sound. When Ismail got back, this wife said to him, a very handsome man came by asking for you. And he left a message for you that you must keep the threshold of this door because it's sound. And he said that man was my father. And he's telling me to never divorce you. Now, that's something cold right there. That's red pill knowledge, if you want to call it that, from a prophet, peace be to him, to his son that is another prophet. from Abraham of all prophets. So to my potential kinfolk, when you say what about the sunnah of the first marriage, I agree with you in a normal situation. But you see, Khadijah wasn't deceiving Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Khadijah wasn't trying to guilt trip him into nothing. Khadijah didn't come up and say, oh, you can't handle an older woman. She wasn't doing that. Khadijah did not even have the demeanor of a ratchet Isha. And, you know, to his credit, Muhammad also, peace be to him, didn't have the demeanor of Thug Max, Mac 10, Lil Uzi, or his big brother, Big Uzi. That is, of course, until it was time to fight militarily. And even then, he was fair. So these are examples for us to follow. But it's not just on men to follow the example, to be like the prophets, peace be to them, including Muhammad, peace and prayers on him especially. It is also on the ladies to be like the wives of prophets and other righteous ladies in history. It's on both of us. But you see, as we have said, as Ali said, when he told someone when they were about to fight, and he said, are you going to kill him too, or something like that? And he suggested someone behind him. And when the man turned around and looked, Ali got him and whooped him. And the man said, you deceived me. And Ali, may Allah be pleased with him, said, war is deception. So to my potential kinfolk, my possible relative, if more women would do like you and would not treat this like a damn war of deception, we wouldn't have to discuss this much. But until the day that collectively, just like women collectively have not told men what they really want from men, not proposed to men, especially when she's a good woman, even when she's just decent, and he's decent. You know, that's actually the least likely scenario for a woman to propose to a man. When both of them are good people, that is the least likely scenario for a woman to propose to a man. Did you know that? To propose, whether it's just, you know, a little one-night proposition or it's marriage. Whatever the case is, that's when they're the least likely to shoot any shot. Have you noticed that? And so, until the day that women can collectively follow Khadijah bint Khuwaylid's example, just like they've followed the examples they've done before with the deception by either omission or commission, with the paternity discrepancy and the paternity fraud, and the hyper competition for the same few men, these collective decisions that ladies have made that have not helped out the human species were made collectively. They were made as a team, without a conference, before the internet, let alone social media, before telephones and long distance communication in a short time, let alone the technology we have. These decisions were made as a gender, and until they turn as a gender collectively and make the other decisions, we have to fight this like a war. I wish we didn't, because I wasn't made this way. I didn't come out the womb like this, and it didn't happen at puberty either. I didn't start thinking, oh man, it's a war with these women. I just naturally understand it from the levels of testosterone now. It's war. I didn't understand this until a few months ago. It's a damn war. And even when I suspected this, I didn't assume that it was a war. I said, okay, this is just my suspicion. Maybe it's just me reacting to new information, you know? Maybe I'm going through that red pill rage stage, even though I've made every attempt to bypass that. Even though it would have happened to me back in 2012 if it was going to happen at all. Maybe that's what it is. And then I saw, no, absolutely not. Men who are on the opposite side of this line from us, my potential relative, like the boogeyman, has sat up and told us they're wearing masks, yo. And underneath that mask is fears and doubts and insecurities. And if that mask comes off, CDs are going to go up in smoke. I'm like, so this dude is telling us that they're running a mass deception on us. And that they've been doing this, he says it's biological. So he's saying they've been doing this since before any kind of technology that we have today. So they didn't even have to sit down and make this decision. He's telling us this. He just told us that they're at war. Out to get everything and give not a damn thing in exchange. Especially when dealing with halfway decent dudes, let alone really good guys. So that they can do what? Take the worst guys and give them everything and ask them for not a goddamn thing. If it's war, then it's war. We gotta fight it. That's what it comes down to. And I'm saying this with a cool head, my potential relative, because I'm one of the lucky ones. So far, I found a good one. We straight. Everything ain't gotta be perfect, but we straight. We all together. I'm not just bouncing for no reason. She gonna have to push me away and vice versa. And it's, we're still new. But I'm saying this as a guy that's going through an actual good experience right now. I'm pissed the uck off that other men that are better than me don't get to go through something even a fourth as good. Because they got to deal with the ratchet ishas and the bonquishas and boom shikas and sapphires. Even when she comes from a nice neighborhood and a two-parent home. Because she feels the need to follow behind the ones that come from the projects. Raised by grandma and them. And because of that, the man's got to go through bad experiences or unnatural solitude, especially while young, and the men do not have the option of conceiving children and then raising these children to be better members of the community, because if they're that type of dude and they can be that kind of dad, they can't get them draws, even with a marriage certificate. Khadijah's example is the one that stands out in that first marriage. And that is the opposite of the example that women today are going to follow, even when they're not Western. That has a better chance of happening here or over there where you are in the West than it does of happening in the East, even further east than where I live or in more conservative places than where I live. I could tell you that straight up. And even then, in the West, where a woman is more likely to follow that example because of liberation, they still would only do so because of selfish interest. Everybody else wants him. Something like that. Nobody proposed to Muhammad except for Khadijah. Peace be to him, and may Allah be pleased with her. Even in the West today, when a woman could do something like that, they will only do so under two conditions. Number one, enough other women have proposed to the same guy, and it's a competition. Okay, then they might, because it's a competition. It's still an ego trip. Or, in the case of, Jada Pinkett and August Alsina, she's got her security from her husband, and he's younger and doesn't have as much money as her, and she'll proposition him to fornicate, but not necessarily for marriage. You see? Or, if she will proposition him for marriage, then she's already planning out a sexless marriage. That's the difference. So, good example you brought. Good question. Please take that question to the ladies. I'm not going to tell men to stop fighting this war until there's no more war to fight. And if the more of these women would have taken even just your example, the situation would have been improved. And I'm not blaming you for what you did not know, because as someone who does not mean men harm, you may really not know about the games that other women are playing. But I do. And that's why I'm telling you, you got to take this advice to them, not to us men. Thanks for listening. The blackest hearted, blackest minded, blackest man on social media. Sign and black out. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. And black heterosexual male power, specifically because they don't like it.